I kept track of my last 100 contracts that I completed in the tier 3 zone, and the results, they may surprise you. My name is Cole Whip, and in this video, we're going to take all of this data and we're going to break it down for you to see just how rare the rarest items are inside of the tier 3 zone. The gameplay you're going to be seeing in the background is of the TR-76 Geist. It is an MW3 AR, and I'm just going to tell you, this gun is absolute trash, so do not use this weapon under any circumstances. I took this gun into the Elder Dark Ether this game and was struggling so hard against the Bounty Mega Abomination that I just aborted mission and went and exfilled so that I did not lose my containment streaks, because, you know, they work like a third of the time, so those are important to have. But let's get into the data. First things first, when it comes to the data, out of the 100 contracts we completed, we got a total of 296 separate rewards. So that's basically 3 rewards per contract, is a pretty safe average when you're completing these tier 3 contracts. Before we start presenting all of this data, I think it is important that we talk about what we didn't get. And we did not receive a single flawless crystal during these 100 contracts. Now, I do have a bit of a theory on how all of this all ties together and when it comes to the long run as to what rewards you're going to get inside of the rift, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm going to present you with the raw data, and then we'll kind of go over my theory of how some of this stuff works. But yeah, we did not get any flawless crystals in this run, so you're not going to see that on this list. But one thing that did surprise me is the most common thing that you get inside of a tier 3 reward rift is ammo mods. In 32% of the contracts we completed, we got at least 1 ammo mod. In 6 of those contracts, we got 2 ammo mods. So we got a total of 38 ammo mods over 32 contracts. I honestly thought the rare ether tools were going to come in at number 1, but alas, it was the ammo mods coming in at number 1. And coming in at number 2, this is probably no surprise to anybody, but sigils do come in at number 2. 31% of the contracts we completed did contain a sigil. So sigils are obviously very common. You need them to get to the Dark Ether. So you have a very, very good chance of getting a sigil anytime you're running contracts in the tier 3 zone. Basically 1 in 3, you're going to get a sigil. Coming in at 3, 4, and 5 are perks, kill streaks, and epic tools respectively. Perks were dropping at 29% of the contracts that we completed. Kill streaks were dropping in at 28% of the contracts that we completed. And epic tools were dropping in at a whopping 27% of all of the tier 3 contracts that we completed during these gameplays. And I gotta say, that is probably the best change that they had made to this game. I believe all that started with season 2. You really started to see an increase in epic tools, and I know they were extraordinarily rare before the season 2 update. So seeing that they are dropping at that high of a rate, that is absolutely incredible to see. And it really helps everybody to stay in working on that end game content a whole lot more. So you love to see that. Dropping in next on the list is the rare ether tool. At 23% of the contracts contained a rare ether tool. I'd really like to see this number lowered a whole lot more. Rare ether tools inside of the tier 3 zone, I don't see them in the Dark Ether anymore. They were dropping in the Dark Ether when we first started getting those ether rifts, but nonetheless, those tools just aren't enough to really survive for long periods of time inside of these higher threat zones. So I'd like to see this number start to drop, but I am glad that it is below the epic tool, at least for that, so we'll take that as a win. These next 3 items, the self-revive, the raw ethereum crystal, and the medium rucksack, all give you about a 1 in 5 chance of finding one of these items inside of a tier 3 reward rift. They come in at 20%, 19%, and 18% respectively. So a solid 1 in 5 chance of getting one of those items. As we near the end of this list, these last 3 items are the last 3 that we got more than a 10% drop rate on. The 3-plate vest, the large rucksack, and the 2-plate vest came in at 13%, 12%, and 11% respectively. So just over a 1 in 10 chance in getting these 3 items, which brings us to the rarest items inside of the tier 3 zone. Schematics dropped at a rate of 8%. Now, over the course of these 100 contracts, we were able to obtain all of the tier 3 schematics. In that 8%, we did obtain every single one of them. Refined crystals dropped at a rate of 7%. Wonder weapons dropped at a rate of 6%. And legendary tools dropped at a rate of 3% for us across these 100 contracts inside of the tier 3 zone. I'm gonna go ahead and put this chart up full screen for you. I think one very safe assumption that we can make with these numbers, since 100 contracts is a very small sample size overall, I think it is safe to say that all of these numbers are probably skewed just slightly lower. So for instance, instance, an ammo mod probably has exactly a 33% chance of dropping. A sigil probably has a 33% chance of dropping. Legendary tools, flawless crystals, wonder weapons, all of those items probably have roughly a 5% chance of dropping. Refined tools, probably a 1 in 10 chance. I think if we kind of just round those off, I don't think that there's some really heavy in-depth algorithm when it comes to this game. I think the numbers are probably pretty rounded off and pretty straightforward overall when it comes down to it. So given the sample size that we have here and everything that we've gone through, I think that those are some pretty safe assumptions that we can make. If you're tired of looking at bar graphs, here's a nice pie chart. This kind of breaks the data down just a little bit differently. This is giving you the percentage of total rewards that were dropped. So for instance, a medium rucksack accounted for 6% of the total rewards. Epic tools accounted for 9% of the total rewards. Ammo mods at the top of the list, 13% of the total rewards were ammo mods. 3-plate vest, 4%, so on and so forth. You can take a look through that pie chart. Feel free to pause, take a screenshot, and you can have a look through that. So as promised, I'm going to give kind of my theory on how these schematics are calculated. So you generally have your 4 separate reward boxes, box 1, 2, 3, and 4, as they're laid out whenever you complete a contract. Starting with box 1 and working your way to box 4, if you group all of these different rewards into say 3 separate categories, we'll call like tier 1 rewards, like kill streaks, perks, sigils, epic tools, self revives, rare ether tools. Tier 2 rewards would be like 3-plate vests, large rucksacks, refined crystals, 2-plate vests, medium rucksacks, and then like your tier 3 higher loot items, your wonder weapons, your legendary tools, your flawless crystals, and your schematics. So if you kind of break those down into 3 separate categories, and then you go look at your reward boxes. So starting in box 1, you have like the highest chance of getting a tier 1 reward. Almost 100% you're going to get one of the tier 1 rewards. Now, I'm not saying by any means that you can't get a higher reward in that very first loot box whenever you get a reward, but what I'm saying is the odds of that happening are extremely low, and kind of picture them all as like slot machine windows. So your odds, they may be 1% to get a legendary item in that very first reward box. But then you get on to the second reward box, well, now maybe your odds are a little bit better. Maybe now they're 3%. And then you get to the third box and maybe they're 5%. And then box 4, you know, maybe they're just a little bit higher. I hope that theory is kind of making a little bit of sense to you, because it does kind of feel like that is how some of these things tend to come out and result whenever you get these rewards inside of the tier 3 zone. And I don't think there's some big complicated algorithm. I think it's just pulling from a list of things, like say, you know, if it's going to reward you a perk, it's just going to grab a perk at random using RNG, and then that's the perk you're going to get. Same thing when it comes to schematics and wonder weapons and legendary tools, flawless crystals, those sort of things. If you're going to get a legendary item, it may pull and say, well, you're going to get a wonder weapon, a legendary tool, a flawless crystal, or a schematic. You're going to get one of those. And then it just kind of picks it that way. Much the same as a slot machine uses their RNG to gather it. And then each box, as you progress in the reward box, gives you a higher and higher chance of getting one of the more rare items. With the exception of box 4, seems to be nothing but sigils and schematics. Across these 100 contracts that we did, nothing in box 4 ever dropped besides a sigil or a schematic. So generally you're just dealing with boxes 1, 2, and 3, and obviously there is a chance that, you know, like if you're playing roulette and it hits 0 or 0, well, then you get no reward in box 3, which is sometimes why you only get 2 rewards, and they may be crap rewards. Like your tier 1 rewards, like you might get, you know, a rare ether tool and a 2-plate vest or something, because obviously those have a much higher chance of dropping. I think that's going to about do it for this video. Obviously you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, good weeks, bad weeks. It's all RNG at the end of the day, but I hope you got at least some value out of this. Get a little bit more insight into just how frequently you can expect some of these rewards to be dropping when you're in the tier 3 zone. And if you do like this content, please drop a like down below, comment, let me know what you think. I've been collecting data on my dark ether runs as well, so if this video does well and you all enjoy this content, then we might be able to bring you that in the future here. But we are over 400 subscribers now at the time of filming, so thank you all so very much for all of the love, everybody who subbed. It's so appreciative. You have no idea how much I appreciate each and every one of you. So please hit that sub button, turn on those notifications if you haven't done so already. And my name is Cole Whip, and I'm out.